was the one who saved us. Greetings, I'm Solidus-Skully, and welcome back to the Resident Evil commentary. Oh, excuse me. Can I just say how much I fucking love this, beautiful little piece here? A similar thing plays, actually, when Chris meets Rebecca for the first time, but, I mean, I do like the save room theme we have generally, but, I kinda wish this was the save room theme. Like, this is so fucking peaceful and serene. Ugh, God, I love it. Masami Ueda. You're a beautiful composer and, yes indeedy. I think it might be time for that bit of trivia. Since, a majority of this part is basically gonna be, well, gathering up some supplies first and foremost, but another part of which is also gonna be, well, progressing onto new areas, which I'll talk about when we get there. I mean, I did cut down on a bit of that after all. I mean, all you're really gonna be missing out on is gathering a few health items here and there, and so I decided to cut the commuting in half and just basically show off the areas that you haven't seen yet. Well, relatively speaking. Oh, the mansion. It is a creature of mysterious chaos. Why am I doing a bizarre Frenchy voice that is inaccurate? But anyway, this leads out to the exterior of the mansion, where there are some red dogs on the other side. If only we had some itchy tasty doggy food to throw at them. But yeah, I mean, I did mention previously that dogs can be a bit of a, kind of ankle biters, but yeah, if you want a key strategy to beating them, basically, once you get a good shot at them, wait till they get up, and they shoot them again. It'll pretty much tell when you have your chance to shoot them when they have that little growl animation, and that's pretty much your key to beating them. Unless there happens to be multiple of them, in which case, make sure that you get them in front of you. I mean, the dogs pretty much are of a one-track mind. I mean, they'll pretty much go, oh look, there's Jill and she is food, so they'll just run at a straight line towards her. So, I mean, once you get them in a straight line to shoot at them, the aiming will do the rest. Although, mind you, you do kind of have to put the effort in, because I think unlike some zombies, it doesn't auto-track. Which, I mean, even in that case, depends upon which version of Resident Evil you're playing. If you're playing the 1996 long box version, then, yeah, basically it was pretty much Japanese hard mode, because I think it had something to do with Japan wanting fewer rentals and more game purchases, so that, you know, kids couldn't beat Resident Evil in a week and then trade it back in and thus lose sales. Which is kind of bizarre, because I thought that was more of a thing that games did these days. I mean, or at least before the whole games as a service system was kind of implemented, which, still very cynical about. Cause, oh dear, I'm grouchy old Solidus-Skully, the dinosaur. Rawr. But yeah, this is pretty much your little haven for gathering up a lot of herbs, as well as the little green room that you saw earlier. So yeah, if you're hurting for some healing items, that's your place to go! And I suppose, while we have some more shit to talk about, let's talk about soundtracks. As you know, we're playing the Sega Saturn version, which of course gives us the original soundtrack composed by the great Masami Ueda, known for composing the first 3 Resident Evil games, Devil May Cry. I think he also worked on Beautiful Joe. But either way, a brilliant composer and, well, a man worthy of my respect. However, in 1997, for the Director's Cut DualShock Edition, they instead had a different composer. And again, it's a bit of a well-known tale for Resident Evil. I think there have been plenty of videos covering the subject, but yeah, I forgot what the guy's name was, but basically, because he had an esteemed reputation of being a composer who was famously deaf, yeah, they brought him in to compose a rearranged soundtrack for Resident Evil by having completely new compositions, except for the fact that, despite being called the modern Beethoven with his unique compositional style, he actually didn't write a lot of his own material. In fact, it was ghostwritten and performed by another Japanese man. And he didn't get called out on this until 2014, where it turns out that the man, in fact, wasn't completely deaf. He partially regained a bit of his hearing during his high school years, I believe, and, yeah, he's been living a lie. And, basically, you can kind of see that reflected in the tracks a little bit, because, again, like, I mean, while Resident Evil 1's soundtrack from Ueda's perspective was, again, very synthy, orchestrated, like, you know, in a way of like a typical 90s B-movie kind of way, yeah, the DualShock Edition soundtrack is, well, even cheesier than that. Like, I mean, it sounds like a mixture between like a 1940s mafia movie, mixed with like a cheesy 70s horror thing, and not like in the John Carpenter kind of way. I mean in like a Dudley Simpson composition, for those of you that are familiar with the man's work. So I mean, really, it's, crap. I mean, the only two tracks that I think are really salvageable from the DualShock edition is, the second floor mansion hallway, and, you know, I'm willing to cut the save room theme of that version some slack as well, because it does at least have a bit of a creepy dollhouse kind of feel. Kind of sounds like it belongs in a Elisa, to be perfectly honest. Which is a game, well, which again, in terms of Resident Evil inspirations, is a game a friend of mine actually talked about earlier today and got me very intrigued. So, yeah, I kind of want to play it. I heard that it did get a console release, I think, but I've not been able to find it, so I might have to spring for the PC version. I mean, it's fun enough, but I don't know. Something about Resident Evil on console that just appeals to me, or Resident Evil-like games. For the lack of a better phrase. But anyway, onwards to new adventure. This is pretty much a part 1 endgame, really. This is where you pretty much bring all the wind crests, moon crests, sun crests, some as big as your head, take out all the dogs, and there we go. Excuse me. My throat hurts. But yeah, if you don't have any of the crests, the door is locked, so go look for the crests and bring them back here for a special reward. And that reward is basically plot progression. And there we go! But I mean, anyway, to kind of go back to my anecdote about the deaf Resident Evil composer, yeah, there is actually a certain infamous track in the game, particularly with the mansion basement, which I might leave at the end of a video one time. You'll be waiting. But I mean, I kind of jumped the gun on that since we probably won't be hearing it in the game itself. It does kind of make me wonder if the ghostwriter had written that as like either a revenge get-back for all the credits that he would never receive, or if, I don't know, they legitimately thought about that. But I would have to wonder about some of the Capcom staff who listened to that and thought, yeah, that'd be okay to put in the game. This fucking clown shoes Chris dancing around going, Wesker, we must stop him! Excuse me. Oh, then again, I guess maybe the guy's esteemed reputation preceded themselves. They didn't want to dishonor the guy's work. In like a Japanese vendetta kind of way. I don't know. But anyway, now we get to the garden. The bridge between the mansion and the guardhouse. Which may have some secrets yet to be untold. Well, I mean, I guess maybe this was probably meant to be Spencer's guardhouse, but, yeah, considering the fact that the Umbrella Corporation has a very vested interest in this place, it was also converted into a laboratory, so who knows really. I guess maybe it possibly could have also been considered a guest bedroom, which you don't really see except for partially the remake, although that kind of has additional areas in and of itself, and cut plot elements that are to be explained at a later date. Don't really have to worry about anything major though, it's just zombie dogs and a radio.
This is Brad. Stars Alpha Team. Please respond. What the hell? Is nobody out there?
Brad, this is Jill.
This is Brad. Stars Alpha Team. Bravo Team. It doesn't matter. Anybody, answer me. This is
Brad? Brad!
What was going on with that radio? But yeah, Brad's still, flying around. What I mean, all things considered, I know he's considered chickenheart, and Resident Evil 3 Classic really does play up the whole he's a cowardly bitch who's too scared to do anything, which makes me wonder why he's in this line of work to begin with. But I mean, all things considered in Resident Evil 1's case, Brad did have the right idea of getting the fuck out of Dodge while he could. Although, actually no, considering the plot, he probably would have been destined to die anyway, because, nothing, I never really considered it that way before. You have no idea what I'm talking about, but you will when a certain plot twist gets revealed, so, I stay my tongue. But, let's just say, Rebecca wouldn't let him leave. So, yeah, either Brad knew something, or, well, he was just smart enough to get away because he was a coward. You see, cowardice can be a survival instinct, if you know how to use it. Also, blue herbs. Make sure to stock a few of those away, just in case you need it. Because, I mean, the Yawn is still around, and, while you might not be seeing it right now, it does have a few snake baby Jesus to worry about. And of course, as is typical with all Resident Evil games, or most of them at the very least, crank puzzles. Oh dear. By the way, look at those water effects. Clear, crystalline blue, just as they should be. Nice, beautiful water effects. Lovely Saturn version. Loading. CG. And that's pretty much the murky shite that it looks like in the PS1 version. Yeah, to kind of talk about the cinematics of Resident Evil 1, like, I mean, they're nowhere near as refined as what they would have been in, like, 2 and 3. Well, I mean, if that, if you're looking at your 90s CG timeline, but Resident Evil 1, I'm not sure, do they use, like, the in-game models, or, like, the pre-rendered backgrounds in tandem with, like, a few additional assets they use specific for cutscenes, or... I don't know, like, I mean, you don't really see it with any character models apart from one cutscene where they use the in-game models, and, like, I mean, it's not done in a Final Fantasy kind of way where, like, it sort of wraps around the characters. It's kind of weird, to be honest. I don't know, like, I mean, to use an example, like, I mean, it's not kind of like where you'd see, like, the PS1 in-game models of characters like, say, Squall from Final Fantasy VIII, and the camera just sort of wraps around to give a cinematic feel. I don't know, it's, weird. Anyway, those are the snakes. Don't let them bite you, or you'll get the poison. After all, mess with a viper, and you'll get the thanks. Seriously, look at that delicious texture quality of the Saturn version. Bit less saturated and a bit less cluttered like the PS1 version is. Superior, even. Well, relatively speaking. I mean, there's really not much additional that the Saturn version really adds besides what I've already mentioned, but again, I do find the graphical quality quite nice in the game, so there's that, I suppose. Well, then again, who really owned a Sega Saturn back in the 90s except for people really into their JRPGs that they probably never would have gotten. There we go, taking down these little pups, who no doubt had their way with Joseph, who I suppose in a bizarre bit of trivia was named after JoJo's Bizarre Adventure by some people. I don't know, like a lot of the early Resident Evil naming schemes were also kind of, weird. I mean, Jill's last name was initially going to be Jill Morrison, you know, Jim Morrison from The Doors. Chris was initially going to be named, like, Beam Mercurio, or Macario or something. And, yeah, that's not even going into Do Your Gelza, which is, well, one of which isn't even a name, and the other of which later had his name given to a member of Bravo Team. Not that it was the same guy or anything, it was just reusing the name. So anyway, that's my bit of Resident Evil trivia for now, but in the meantime, we have some more dogs to face. While we continue collecting some health that the dogs will have eaten. I will say though, like, I mean, again, if you're really careful about how you play the game, you'll find yourself actually getting kind of stocked to the gills with a lot of herbs, but I don't know, I guess it's a safety net for people who are a bit loosey-goosey with the controls. But I mean, either way, yeah. The only real problem with the dog enemies is that, again, while swift, they can tend to maneuver around you a little bit, but again, until they have their little charge-up growl jump attack, you don't really have too much to worry about, so on that note, I am Solidus-Skully. Oh no wait, we've still got a dog to kill. Shouldn't take too long though, just wait till the fella gets up, growl a rock, growl a rock, growl a rock. And anyway, catch you dudes and dudettes next time, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye, and we enter the Guardhouse.